Alright, this video I'm just going to show you how to solve all the problems from the 2012-2013 Pre-AP Algebra 2 7.1 7.2 quiz. So I'm going to do each of the problems. When you were 5, your parents put you in a TV commercial for Whataburger. You were paid $1,000 but can't get the money until you turn 18. The money sits in a savings account that earns 1.5% a month. How much money is there when you can get it out? So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the equation that she gave you a amount before that says the amount is equal to the principal times 1 plus or minus the rate divided by the number of terms to the power of t times the number of terms. So what we need to look at here is what's going on. This is your starting amount. It says that your starting amount is $1,000. It says it's gaining 1.5% a month, so it's going to be plus. Remember that she told you this number when you put it in here has to be as a decimal, not as a percent. So I don't want to put 1.5. What I actually want to put is 0.015. That's what 1.5% is as a decimal. So I'm going to cancel this out and put it over the n. I'm not sure what the n is yet, so I'm going to leave that blank for a second. Okay, so n is the number of times it happens per year, and so it says that it earns every single month, so n is going to be 12. So I'm going to put that in right here. It says you were 5 when you made the commercial and you couldn't get your money until you were 18, so 18 minus 5 means that we have 13 years. So we're going to do 13 again times n, which is 12. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this into my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to do 1,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.015 divided by 12 to the power of, I'm going to put it in parentheses again, the 13 times 12. And then hit enter, and it tells me it's now $1,215.16. Since you're dealing with cents, you got to round to the hundredths place. So the answer to this one right here is going to be $1,215.16. Okay, number 2, you decide to, when you graduate, you're going to the University of Oregon. Since you are an out-of-state student, tuition is $7,456.75 a year. Your first year, you take out loans for the entire amount at a rate of 4.68 a year. How much do you owe at the end of the year? So for that one, we're just using the simple one. The amount is equal to P times 1 plus the rate to the power of T. Remember, again, your rate has to be in a decimal. So we're going to say the amount is equal to the starting amount that you put in there. Well, this should have been plus or minus. On this example, it is plus because it's gaining. The amount that you owe is getting larger. And whoops, I put it as a percent. It needs to be 0.0468 to the power of, it's just 1. It's only 1 year. So we're going to do 7456.75 times 1.0468. You don't even have to put to the power of 1 because that's implied, but I can. It tells me $7,805.73. So the answer to this one, $7,805.73. Now it says, assume that you do not take any more loans and that you graduate in 4 years. How much do you owe when you graduate? So the only thing that's going to change on this last equation that we just did is that this one is now going to be a 4 because it's now 4 years that we've borrowed the money. So we're going to do this same equation, 7456.75 times 1.0468 to the power of 4. And it says we owe $8,953.74. $8,953.74. Okay. Next one, it says you buy a Pokemon card that is worth $13. it appreciates in value at a rate of 6% a year. How much will the card be worth when you are 25? So on this one, obviously, you have to write how old you are. So I'm going to assume that most of you guys are either 15, 16, or 17. So you're going to have a different answer on this based on how old you are, okay? Hopefully no one's younger or older than that. If you are, please adjust this accordingly, okay? So we're going to use that same function rule that we had right here. It's appreciated in value, so that means it's going up. The principal amount was $13. 1 plus, remember that we have to turn 6% into a decimal, so it's 0.06. Now we have to figure out what our time is. So we're turning 25, we're subtracting 15, that gives me a value of 10. So I'm going to do this to the power of 10. So I'm going to say 13 times 1.06 to the power of 10. So if I'm only 15 years old, at the end of when I'm 25, it's going to be worth $23.28. So this one, $23.28. If I'm 16, then the 10 is going to be one less. 25 minus 16 gives me 9. So instead of having a 10 here, I'm going to have a 9. So I'm going to do the same function rule, but I'm going to change it to a 9. And it's going to be $21.96. And then if I'm 17, of course, it's going to be to the power of 8. Which says $20.72. Then it says, how much will the card be worth when you're 50? So again, I'm going to do 15, 16, and 17. Just for whatever age you are, use whatever age you are. So the difference here is, instead of 25, it's going to be 50 minus 15, which is going to tell me 35. So instead of this 10 up here that I did, I'm going to do 35. So it's going to be 13 times 1.06 to the power of 35. So it's going to be $99.92. Now if we were 16, it's going to be to the power of 34, so we're going to do the same thing. $94.26. And if we're 17, it's going to be the same thing, except it's going to be to the power of 33. And that's going to be $88.93. So there's different answers because you could be different ages, okay? You have 10,000 split ends in your hair. You're getting rid of them at a rate of 3.5% a minute. How many will you have after an hour? So this one, what I need to do is I need to use this guy, but this time it's going to be a minus because I'm subtracting it away. In other words, I'm getting rid of it. So I'm going to say A equals 10,000 times 1 minus 0.035 to the power of, it happens per minute and it's after 1 hour, so it's going to be to the power of 60. So I'm going to type that into my calculator. 10,000 times 1 minus 0.035 to the power of 60 gives me 1,179. I'm going to round it to the nearest one because I'm talking about an actual value, so I'm going to say it's approximately 1,179. And then it says how many will you have after 2 hours. So the difference here is this isn't going to be 60 anymore, it's going to be 120. I'm going to do the same thing. 10,000 times 1 minus 0.035 to the power of 120. And it tells me 139. And again, it's an approximation because I'm getting rid of whole values, so I want to round it to a whole value. Next one. You buy 1 share of Apple stock at an initial cost of $596.05. The stock is falling at a rate of 0.55% a day. If this continues and you sell your share after 1 year, how much will you get for it? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a subtraction again. So we're going to say A equals 596.05 times 1 minus 0.0055. Because I have 0.55% as a decimal, it's 0.0055. It's after 1 year, and this is happening every single day, so this is going to be 365. So what I'm going to do here is type it into my calculator. 596.05 times 1 minus 0.0055 to the power of 365. It tells me it'll be worth $79.62, which is a lot less. It says you find out you misread the stock report and that your stock is actually rising at a rate of 0.55% a day. If this continues and you sell your share after 1 year, how much will you get? So the only change here is going to be, instead of minus, I'm going to change it to plus. So it's going to be 596.05 times 1 plus 0.0055 to the power of 365, which tells me 4,413 and 6 cents. 4,413 and 6 cents, which is a lot more, so that's a better deal for me. On to the back. So the first one's really easy. It says, what is the domain and range of the inverse relation? Remember that the domain and range just switch. So right now my domain is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So in the inverse, the range is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Right now the range is 7, 11, negative 5, 12, and 15. So in the inverse, the domain is going to be 7, 11, negative 5, 12, and 15. Very simple. Number 11, what is the inverse function? So what we got to do here is we got to first change the f of x to a y. So we're going to say y equals 3x plus 9. Now we're going to switch the x and the y. So we're going to say x equals 3y plus 9. Now we're going to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 9. So I have x minus 9 equals 3y. And then I have to divide by 3. Now remember, when you divide by 3, you divide everything. X over 3 is the same thing as 1/3 x, which is what I'd prefer to write it as. 9 divided by 3 is 3 equals y. The last step is to write it as an inverse function, which means you say the inverse of f of x equals 1/3 x minus 3. And that's your answer. So I'm going to put that right here. The inverse of f of x equals 1/3 x minus 3. Okay, next one tells me f of x equals the square root of x plus 3. So I'm going to change it to y equals the square root of x plus 3. I'm going to change the x and the y, so I'm going to say x equals the square root of y plus 3. In order to get rid of the square root, I'm going to square both sides. So I get x squared equals y plus 3. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I get x squared minus 3 equals y. And then I just need to turn it into the inverse function. So I'm going to say the inverse of f of x equals x squared minus 3. Next one, I'm going to change it to say y equals 7x plus 9 over 2. I'm going to change the x and the y, so I'm going to say x equals 7y plus 9 over 2. I'm going to multiply by 2. So remember, you eliminate in the reverse order of operations in the SADMEP. Then I'm going to subtract 9. So 2x minus 9 equals 7y. And then I'm going to divide by 7. Remember to divide everything. So we have 2/7 x minus 9/7 equals y. Now we're going to turn it back into the inverse function by saying the inverse of f of x equals 2/7 x minus 9/7. There's probably a couple of you saying, can't I write it as the inverse of x equals 2x minus 9 over 7? Yes, you can. Either one's fine. Okay, next one. I'm going to change this to say y equals the square root of x plus 1 minus 7. I'm going to switch my x and my y, so I'm going to say x equals y plus 1 minus 7. Now I'm going to solve for y. Remember, before you can square something, you have to get the radical by itself first. So I do that by adding 7. Now I'm going to square this, and I'm going to remember not to do devil math. I'm going to remember that this squared is really x plus 7 times x plus 7, which means it's going to be x squared plus 7x, which is 14x, plus 49 equals y plus 1. And then I'm going to subtract 1, and I'm going to get x squared plus 14x plus 48 equals y. And then I'm turning it back into the inverse function. So I'm going to say right here, the inverse of f of x equals x squared plus 14x plus 48. Last one, I'm going to start by making this y equals x squared plus 4x plus 4. I'm going to switch my x and my y, so I'm going to say x equals y squared plus 4y plus 4. You can't actually solve for y when it's like this, so what we need to do is we need to turn it into a squared term. This is the same thing as, if you remember before, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared equals a plus b squared. In other words, this is something squared, it's y times y. This is something squared, it's 2 times 2. So if this middle part follows the rule of 2 times both of those, then it's right. So 2 times y times 2 is 4y, which is, that's what I have in the middle. So it is actually y plus 2 squared. So then I'm going to square root each side, which is going to give me the square root of x equals y plus 2, and I'm going to subtract 2. So I'm going to have the square root of x minus 2. This minus 2 is not underneath the radical, equals y. And then I'm going to turn it into the inverse function, so I'm going to say the inverse of f of x equals square root of x minus 2. And that's the answer. Those are all of them. If you have any questions, let me know.